Hey, you're tuned in to the Talk About It podcast. I'm Lauren Fulmer.
I'm Victor Dantas.
And today we have a very special guest I'm excited to have with us, a good friend, author, Kristy Lee. Kristy, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Very excited to have you with us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Yeah. So let's start off. Just tell us a little bit about yourself. Some folks may not be familiar with you.
Yeah.
Why don't you just go ahead and give us your little quick bio?
Sure. I'm originally from Colorado, but I've lived in Galesburg, Illinois now for about 12 years. And I started writing in 2016, and I have 3 books published through Blossom Spring Publishing. And and another fun fact is I work at Monmouth College.
All right.
What brought you here?
What brought me to Galesburg? I have family that lives in the area, and I stopped in to visit with them and ended up meeting my husband while I was here. So I've been here ever since.
You should have ran. No, I do know the husband. If he ever watches this, she should have ran. But no, that's good. Good.
Yeah.
I'm very interested in the writing. So was that something you were always interested in? I know in high school there's journalism and classes like that.
Yeah, actually, really no. I've always been an avid reader, but I've never been a writer until much later in life. I had actually, this is very random, but I had a really vivid dream one night where I wrote a book in my dream. And the next day I woke up and told my husband that I was going to write a book. And so that's what I did. So that's when the writing actually started.
Do you believe there was a book that you read that was like kind of triggered you to want to write one yourself?
Well, I would have to say Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. I reread every year, and I had just finished rereading it again when I had that dream. And so, yeah, I think that book has always influenced me to want to read and write. So.
And that was your first moment that you're like, I'm writing a book.
Yep.
I love it. So you feel like in your dream, let's talk about that, because this is your first book right here, The Worst Thing I Could Do.
Yes.
Was the dream anywhere near this topic?
No, not at all.
What was the dream topic?
The dream topic was about a man who had a mental health issue, and it was very vague, and I don't remember the details now. And I ended up, when I got up the next day and started writing for the first time, I started with that sort of idea that was in my head and quickly scrapped it because I realized it was total garbage. And then ended up coming up with The Worst Thing I Could Do shortly after that.
Cool. So The Worst Thing I Could Do.
Yeah.
I did read that one.
Thank you.
I remember you gave me a signed copy.
What's the content of the book? Like, what's the story about?
So the story is about a forensic researcher named Maddie, and she is recently divorced and basically pretty unhappy, pretty sad, and struggling with her life. She's taking on a new project with the FBI where she's going into a prison and having to interview some very violent offenders for their research. And she ends up sort of developing an infatuation with one of the inmates that she's actually interviewing. It is women's fiction, which means that it's really about her journey. It's not really a love story. It's about her journey of self-discovery and finding happiness, even in sort of a very bizarre scenario.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And how do you come up with, like, how does the creative part comes up? Like,
That it really depends. Each book has been a little different. I usually tend to just think of a specific scene in my imagination, like when I'm driving to work or something like that. Something comes into my mind, and I then write the scene down, and then a story will usually unfold around that scene. So with The Worst Thing I Could Do, I had a specific scene in mind where she was interacting with an inmate, and there was some tension between the two of them, and I just imagined this, and then I wrote that scene, and then the rest of it followed.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you never really fell in love with the inmate?
No. No, I have never, these are very, and I've had other people ask me that too, like, does this come from any kind of personal experience? None of them come from any personal experience at all. There's no secret history with an inmate or anything.
Right. No, but that's one thing that I find so interesting is, I mean, these ideas, these thoughts, these stories, they come from somewhere.
Yeah.
So obviously an incredible imagination to be able to even not just form a scene,
Yeah.
but then to grow on it and go so much further with it.
It's definitely, my imagination has always been very, very vivid. I was this only child for the first 10 years of my life, and I didn't have a lot of friends. We kind of moved around a lot, and so I created a very vivid imagination and had a lot of imaginary friends and a very elaborate imaginary world in my head. As a child, and that just never went away. Well into my adulthood, I just always have a very vivid second life in my head going on.
And have you always liked to write?
Yeah, I love the process of writing. Most of my writing through my life has been, schoolwork writing, reports, a lot of, I'm working right now on getting my doctorate, for instance, so I'm always writing papers that are literature reviews or, scientific or things like that. And I've always loved that. I've always loved doing that. But writing fiction is a whole different process, and it's way more fun, and it's very enjoyable. It's absolutely my favorite thing to do.
Okay.
No question. Yeah.
Okay. Where do you sell those? Online?
Online, yeah. Amazon is the most frequent, place that people shop for them. But they are available pretty frequently at bookstores in the UK because my publisher is UK based. And they're ebook and paperback, and I sell them on my website and things like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll make sure we put the link, the Amazon link, on the description for the
Yeah.
video.
So when this book came out, I'm sure you had some sort of personal idea or goal. I'm sure hope I can sell 100 of these or whatever
Yes,
it's it.
yes.
So what was it, and then kind of where are you at?
I thought my goal actually was if I could sell a book and somebody tells me they enjoyed it, that's all I wanted. I wanted one person to be like, I really enjoyed that book.
sure.
Just one person. And so luckily I've experienced that, but that was my goal. It wasn't really about the numbers so much as I just wanted somebody to be like, I really liked that. You
Right.
know?
Okay.
Yeah.
So once that happened,
Yeah.
and then you came with the second book, Glimmers of
Yeah.
Hope, right? Tell us a little story. I haven't read that one. So what
Yeah.
is that?
Well, Glimmers of Hope is a young adult novel. So the ages of the characters are 18. They're going into college. They're getting ready to attend Alfred University, which is where I went to school, which is in New York. The story starts off with Birdie is the main character. She was actually abandoned as an infant at a train station and then put into foster care. So her life, her childhood has been very rough. It's been painful and difficult. And she has worked her whole life to be able to get into college and to escape the foster care system. And she ends up needing to work before her first semester at college and takes a job for a wealthy family. The young man who lives at this wealthy family happens to be somebody who was very mean to her in high school, was her high school bully. And so it's about her adventure through that summer and through her first year in college and learning about the identity of who her birth mother was, who her birth father was, and finding love and all of those kind of growing up type of things.
Did she find a way to kill the bully?
No, not so much.
All right, so it's not that type of
No.
that type of book. All right, well that's where I would have took the ending.
That's
I'm
a
just
different
saying.
type of book.
No, I also was abandoned at a train station.
Yes,
so
I believe that, Lauren.
I can relate to I'm kidding, man. You see his eyes. Was there much difference coming from the first book to the second book in getting it published and getting the publisher on board? Was it easy or is it more difficult?
It was easier because I already had a publisher established, so I didn't have to go through the process of finding one, which made it way easier. It also took me only about 6 months to write, whereas the worst thing I could do took me, I think it was like 4 years before I finally was ready to submit it.
I would like to understand more how the process looks like. Like from the first book, for example, before the first book, how did you have first the idea, how you were sure that you were gonna write a book? Who did you need to talk to?
Yeah.
Do you actually write everything like on a paper or type and then show to someone to edit? How does that work?
Yeah, it's a really interesting process and a very difficult process to get published. That's why a lot of people do self-publishing, for instance, is really popular because it is so hard to find a publisher to pick up your work. The process itself was I needed to finish, and this is what I read online. I did a lot of research to try to find out how to do this. And the main thing was they kept saying you need to have a finished product. You know, your manuscript needs to be done. Not just an idea of a manuscript and then contact publishers. They don't care about that. They need a finished work. So I finished my manuscript first, which again, like I said, took some time until I was happy with it. And then I started going through the process of figuring out if I wanted to try to get an agent for the book to represent it or to submit directly to publishers.
Okay.
So then that process is you have to query them, you write letters, you have to send in synopsises and hope that somebody likes it enough to represent it. And I got lucky and was able to find somebody who did, but it can be a very difficult process. A lot of writers will complain about just how painful it is to be rejected from an agent or like a publisher. And, you know, I think if anybody's listening to this and who's kind of wanting to do this or is going through this process, you have to just not let those things bring you down. And you just keep pushing. You know, they're your dreams. Only you're going to make them happen. So, you know, relying on somebody else to believe in you is nonsense. You have to make it happen. So just keep at it. And if you keep at it, you'll get lucky and you'll find somebody who likes your work.
And what would be the difference between the agent and the publisher? Like what?
So it's an interesting difference. And some people have an agent. So an agent queries and submits your books to publishers on your behalf. And some publishing companies won't take a submission unless it's from an agent. So, and then others, of course, are open to any submissions. So it depends on the publisher. Some of the larger publishing houses, like in New York, and you know, your big names, they won't even talk to you unless you have an agent and, you know, probably a few other works too. So, the whole book game is really like a game of chess, and it's very complicated and very stressful, but I'm very glad I went through it because it was worth it in the end. But it does take a lot of patience, a lot of time. Okay. And you have to be very determined to make it happen.
So with your current publishing company, do you have some sort of an agreement, like a 5-book or 7? Yeah, I don't know.
A lot of publishers do that. My publishing company does it 1 book at a time. And then there's different clauses that you can get with different publishers that say you can't take your work to another publisher for the next 5 works, or, you know, they'll have these different clauses in their contracts. I'm lucky because my publisher is not like that. They're very just really great, and they'll do 1 book at a time. So if they like my work and I submit it, then they're like, okay, here's your contract. And then they take it 1 book at a time. But a lot of publishers are like that. Yes.
And how's the marketing done? Okay, after you write the book, you need to make sure people know that the book exists. What do you do?
So the marketing part, I think, of being a current 2022 published author is probably the worst part of it. Back, 50 years ago, a lot of writers would write the book and then they never had to do anything else. There was no marketing involved. Now it's very important that you develop a lot of social media accounts, that you try to build a social media presence. In fact, some publishers won't pick up your work unless you already have an established social media large following. So it's very social media based now, and it's kind of a bummer because you can't just write work now and have it published. Like you are responsible partly for developing a lot of social media campaigns and things like that, which not everybody likes to do. It's not my favorite thing to do. I'm learning, but it's not.
We can help with that, Clear Profits.
Yes, that's right. You can. That's exactly right. It's those kind of things, though. It's very like I said, it's a game. It's like the book game.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the second book you mentioned kind of took place at your own college.
Yeah.
Which I believe you got to go back to your own college and kind of represent yourself and share some of this excitement. Talk about that experience.
Yeah, so I got to go back as an alumni and got to attend the alumni event and have a table and sell my books. And it was really exciting to talk to the community about Birdie's story, especially because it was set there in Alfred. And it was really one of the coolest book signings I've ever done by far. And there was a lot of people there and a lot of interest, so it was really cool.
That is cool.
Yeah.
And then did you get to touch base with any previous professors and stuff? They were like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. So
yeah,
that
I
stuff?
did. I got to talk to people I knew when I was there. My old boss, Janet Marble, she ran the alumni like events office, and so I got to touch base with her. I even had Thanksgiving with her once when I was in college. So I got to meet up with all those people. So it was really cool. Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah.
Well, let's hit the third book while we're on that. That when was that one released?
Just this summer. So it's summer 2022. It's probably my favorite book yet. I love it. It's based in the Colorado Rockies, which is, again, where I'm from. So a lot of childhood, related imagery going on for me, which I think is why I liked it so much. It is a little bit more, it's young adult, but with some adult themes. So in the book world, sometimes that's called new adult genre because it's not quite young adults. It's a little bit older. And it's about a woman named May she's an alcoholic. She's gotten kicked out of college and she is forced back to where she spent her summers as a child to maintain the property there. And in doing so, she runs into her former best friend, Dylan, who she had ghosted many years prior and never spoke to him again. And he's very upset with her. And now they're kind of forced proximity for the summer and trying to figure that out. And it's a very, again, a coming of age and learning to be happy kind of a story and finding love and all of those fun things.
Nice.
Yeah.
Victor, have you ever been ghosted?
What is being ghosted? I
So
was
ghosted.
here. As soon as she said that, I'm like, what
Okay.
what does that mean?
So ghosted is
You disappear. You don't talk to the person.
You've been trying to get maybe you and a friend or a girl, you have kind of created some relationship, and all of a sudden she goes blank. Like you're like, hey, maybe get together this weekend. Nothing.
And she doesn't tell you why or say anything.
So then
to
you called that.
ghosted.
She
Gone.
went ghosted.
Yeah.
Gone.
She
Okay.
ghosted you.
She
She
ghosted.
kind of like disappeared on
Okay.
you.
So
Okay.
you could, your next message would be like, why are you ghosting me?
Okay. Okay.
To which she won't respond.
Right, of which you will still get ghosted.
Yes.
I'm still in the process of learning some English expressions.
Oh, for sure.
Or sayings.
That's
or-
an important one to know. It's a
Yes.
common one now.
So now that you know, have you been ghosted?
I don't. I mean, I think so. When I was younger,
Yeah?
I think everybody has, right?
I haven't. I've never been ghosted.
No, that's
No,
not
I'm
true.
kidding. I know. I could probably write a book on how many times I've been ghosted.
Yeah, I think everybody has. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I just thought it'd be funny to see.
You knew I didn't know that.
I didn't know if you knew. I really didn't.
yeah,
like
I
you said,
didn't.
some of them you'll know, and some won't.
Mm-hmm.
So. Oh man. So do you have a fourth book in mind
I
already in the
do.
works a little bit?
Yes, a little bit. I'm about a fourth of the way through the fourth one, and I'm still kind of piecing together that story. It's kind of a continual thing for me where I'll get ideas throughout, the summer. I had a few ideas and I just start putting them down on paper and piecing stuff together. So it's just something I try to do as much as I can. But of course, with working full time and going to school full time, I'm not able to crank them out, as much as I'd like to. But
For sure.
it is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How often does it happen where you're in like what you're doing right now? You're in the middle of this. Do you ever get like a good week or two of content and then just go, nope,
Yes.
and
Yes.
like literally erase the last
Yeah.
2 weeks that you've done?
Absolutely. It's just all part of the process.
And do you find that frustrating, or are you
No.
like, okay, I'm back to this, let's go?
It's part of the creative thinking process, so it helps me to narrow down topics and figure out what I'm really wanting from a story. So I like to try different things, and then I might go back and hate it and I'll erase it, but then it helps me to know, okay, why didn't I like it? What direction do I really want to go to? So it's all just part of it. Even when I'll get the full manuscript done, I will go back again, reread it, and I'll be taking out stuff even when it's done and rewriting. So it's a kind of an ongoing thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What usually comes first, the story or the title?
Well, it's been different for each book. The worst thing I can do was the title came first, or pretty much near first. Glimmers of Hope, my husband helped me come up with that title long after the story was written. So that Drops of Sunlight, the title came first as well. So it's been a mixed bag.
Nice.
Yeah.
And do you have the title of this fourth one
I don't.
You don't have
yet.
to share it. Or,
I don't
just
yet.
wondered.
I have like 3 floating ideas right now, and I haven't figured out which one I'm going to go with yet, and it's still early enough to where I'm not sure if I'm going to change it or not. So yeah.
Have you thought about one of those stories actually going viral and maybe becoming a movie or something like that? Have you ever thought about that?
In my wildest dreams, of course.
Yeah.
Sure.
I
I
this
dream
one
big.
would be
What can I say?
I've only read this one, but that would be a good movie. I could
yeah.
totally see that being a movie.
Thank you. Yeah. No,
Because I would
definitely
think
that.
when you're writing, you might be thinking about this the scene happening, right?
Yeah.
Meaning that it would be audio visual and not
Yes.
only people reading. So
Yes.
that's why I'm asking that.
Yeah, it's exactly right. Because when I'm writing, same as when I'm reading, I have it playing in my head like a movie. So
Yes.
to me, it's always kind of like a movie. Yeah.
Well, if you get that opportunity, can you part of your deal be that Lauren gets to be one of the inmates? I want to play the role of one of the inmates.
I don't know if you're tough enough for one of those inmates.
Oh
Lauren.
my! I can act tough.
I don't know.
I don't know. You'll see. No, I do have an infatuation with prisons. Really,
Yeah.
I've always watched a lot of prison shows.
Yeah.
I took a class at Parkland College. It was Sociology 101, and we spent an entire summer going in and out of many different correctional centers.
Yeah.
And it was
Eye-opening.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, to say the least.
I've done the same. When I was getting my bachelor's degree in psychology, I took some criminology courses, and we went into prisons as well. And I for a while considered being a forensic psychiatrist or a forensic researcher. So Maddie is living my alternate life where she's got the job that I thought about having.
So you wanted to fall in love with an inmate.
I did. Yes, you got it.
No, I'm kidding. But yeah, that is one thing though that helped me. Like I had told you this before before I even read it. I literally hadn't really touched a book in about 15 or 20 years.
That's right. You told me that.
And having like a relationship, like knowing you guys, I'm like,
Yeah.
no, I'm gonna just try to check this out.
Yeah.
And then with it having some prison involvement, knowing who wrote it, like it really, like it pushed me through to finish
Yeah.
it. You know,
Yeah.
and it was a great book. I
Thank
absolutely
you.
enjoyed
Yeah,
it.
it's one of those things. I've talked to a few people actually lately who have told me that they don't read. They're not readers. You know, they haven't read in a long time. My husband isn't a reader. Like he's like you, Lauren. It's just not really something that interests him. And I can't really say I relate to that very much because I read every day. But I can say that if you push through and you keep looking for a story that interests you, you'll find that reading can be the most relaxing and enjoyable.
And this is the thing. I think there is like a trend that people are starting to consume books, but listening,
Yes,
audiobooks.
yeah.
Do you have those in audiobooks?
I do not.
No?
I do not have those in audiobooks, but that I think would be a really cool idea because a lot of people love to do that.
Yeah, I don't like to read, but I'll
Yes.
tell you that I read at least 5 books per month
Yeah.
listening.
Yeah,
I can read a whole book in one day. So and I speed up the speed of the audio when I listen. So
Yeah.
I can read a book very fast, and I find that the best way for me to consume the content. And sometimes I write notes. So
Yeah, a lot of people. I know tons of people who are doing that.
I would never spend 3 months reading one book. That I would not. But I would listen to those books, for example.
Yeah.
That's what I've been doing, and maybe not 3 months, but a month and a half to get through a book. I really enjoy. Well, I've been reading a lot of the self-betterment type books. So to me, I like to 15. I think I mentioned this last week on an episode, but like 15 to 20 minutes tops.
Yeah.
And then get to just like digest and chew on some of that stuff. In a story environment like this, I probably could get through it much quicker.
Yeah, it's a different type of read. This is more fiction is more escapism, and you use it to escape, and so you don't have to do like what you're saying where you have to really sit and absorb and the content as much. It's more of a release than it is taking on new information.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What would you say, Kristy, to someone who very much like yourself before you got anywhere close to this, and they may be watching this and go, man, I've been chewing on this idea or thinking about it, and no pun intended, but how did they start getting pen to paper?
I literally, the best thing I can say is to sit down, and I would definitely say type. If you're doing pen to paper, it's too much when you're writing this much content. Get in front of your computer, open a Word document, and even if it's nonsensical, just start putting stuff on the piece of paper. Don't worry about formatting to start off. Don't even worry about punctuation to start off. Just put your ideas down. And then keep building on that. And then as you do that, you'll take ideas off, you'll add new ones, and then a concept will start to form. But you have to get past that barrier of it living in your head.
Right.
And you have to put it on something, otherwise it will never come to fruition to anything.
Do you have the script, like the bullet points of the story, or you just keep writing, not knowing what's gonna be after the?
Some people, I have a lot of writer friends, and they do different things. So some writers will do just that. They'll have bullet points of like ideas or concepts or story plot points, right? I don't do that. I literally it's like word vomit, it's just there it is, and then I start going from there. So really it's just about trying to put what's up here and really start to funnel it out into something tangible if you want to actually get to a point where it's something tangible, right?
So I found
Go ahead.
Well, I just found that interesting. You talk about just start putting it like pen to paper or typing it out, getting it out of your head. That so much applies to anything in life, really, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if we're going to talk about our goals, if someone wants to start doing things differently tomorrow,
Yes.
you have to start writing it and getting it down so you visualize, see it in front of you, and start to make those changes.
Absolutely. It's kind of that concept where, and I'm a big believer in this, I don't really see the point of having dreams or goals unless you're going to act on them.
Well, because, there's a word I'm thinking of. Because other than that, it's just an idea.
Exactly. It's nothing. It just lives in your head as nothing.
Right. We all have a friend, and I think I all have been that at one point, but where you're just full of ideas.
Yeah.
Oh, you're always throwing out these ideas, but I'm sorry, you don't execute or do anything.
Not worth anything.
Then it doesn't mean anything,
Right.
And it's the same thing where, you'll have, I've known people who say things like, well, I had good intentions. I was going to do this and I had good intentions. That means nothing to me. Either you do it or you don't. And that's it. So,
Yeah. Movers or shakers,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
And what are you going to be?
yeah.
Movers or shakers?
That's another one. No, I'm just messing
You
around.
gotta keep
But
throwing these at him.
I do. I like to.
I want to learn.
But no, you're either going to do it,
or
you're going to, just sit there and not make a lot of noise.
Yeah, and the
right?
noise is just that. It's just noise. It
And
means nothing.
At some point too, though, it gets draining. To hear like someone, if every day you're telling me you're going to quit smoking,
Right.
and I see you 3 weeks in, and you're like, you're still burning them. Eventually, I'm going to be like, will you please just quit telling me
don't
that
tell
you're
me
going to
about
quit?
it. Yeah.
Right. So I would encourage anyone out there, though, if you have your own goals or something that you're wanting to accomplish or even change within yourself, it literally is what we're talking about. You have to start and keep it to yourself. If you need to tell someone, sometimes it does help to like tell someone about
tell
it,
someone that you trust.
some accountability.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Tell that person, and, you don't have to get on Facebook and tell everyone. You don't have to go out and like tell every single. And if you do that, make sure you do it. Because then you just lose accountability to everybody.
Hold yourself accountable.
For sure.
I just get so tired of people saying, I mean to do this, or I intend to do this, or this is what I want to do, and then never doing anything. It's hard to respect the person. It's hard to even care that much about what they're telling me. It's until I see action, it's just, why are you even saying anything?
Yeah.
It's lazy is what it is.
Right. I mean, and people can get their feelings like, even like you said earlier, it's if your book idea getting turned down, it can hurt you.
Yeah, it can.
But it can also push you to go and be bigger, better.
Yes. Yes.
I think in our world, it's slowly becoming so soft where we feel we have to talk to everyone the same, right? And I can promise you, if you talk to me, I am going to respond better to that, like almost like that aggressive coach who is in your face. That works really well for me. That's how my father was. But like not that I wouldn't respond to some of the softer. Sure, but I know for me, it's going to really hit home if you give me a good chewing.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Some people, I think that's part of, and I think, Lauren, you're good at this just from knowing you, but it's part of that emotional intelligence and knowing how you can speak to one person versus another, and that will be motivating to them. Some people, if you're aggressive when you talk to them, will shut down and they'll respond the opposite. And it's about knowing those differences, but it's more important to know how do I respond to things? You know, if am I going to get upset or offended, or if somebody says something to me I don't like, or am I going to take it in stride and say, well, that's okay, you know, and become maybe more focused on what I think is important. I don't know. You know, it's just about knowing yourself so you can know others.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. And being open and understanding that everyone is different.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, Kristy, you said you're doing your doctor's degree, right?
Yeah.
What is your degree, and what's the goal after that? What do you want to get at?
So my career has mostly been in human resources, and right now I work in career development at Monmouth College, which is really fun and great. My doctorate is in education in human resource development. So I think my dissertation is going to be focused on experiential learning, like internships and things like that for college students. I think after I get my degree, I'd like to teach in the evenings, maybe adjunct, pick up a class here or there and teach some courses on human resources or organizational development or those types of things.
Do you plan on writing a book about you as well, about your life?
No.
Why?
You know, to be honest, the reason is because I like to write what I like to read, and I don't like autobiographies. I don't like real stories. I like escapism. I like fiction. That's why I read them. For me, it's for fun. So I don't want to write about myself because, frankly, I don't think my story is that interesting anyway, but also because I don't care about that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Does that make sense?
Maybe you would be surprised with the amount of people that would want to know.
Yeah, maybe, but it's really, there's not much to tell.
Yeah. Well, maybe not now. I mean, obviously hopefully it's a whole lot more left to your
maybe
story.
when I'm 80 and I have had some really interesting things go on.
Right. At that point, you will have an amazing story. I'm sure of it by then.
I still won't write it down though.
Yeah.
You should, though.
What about you? Do you think you could ever write a book? Like,
Yes, one day. Yeah.
Yeah?
I'm sure I will.
You will? That is a goal?
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
You heard it first right here.
Yeah, you guys learned. You guys heard. Yeah, I would definitely do it.
One
day, not now. I'm not at that point. Yeah.
What do you think yours would be about?
About my life.
It would? So you would go that avenue?
Yeah. I would basically talk about the everything since I was a kid.
When you're abandoned at a train station?
Yep.
Oh, man.
Exactly.
Well, I very much appreciate you coming in today, Kristy. I wish you the best of luck on your fourth book and fifth and whatever the heck comes to follow. Go ahead and plug it one more time. If anyone would like to look into these books where they can find more about you, plug your Instagram, plug whatever you want. This is your chance.
My website is KristyLeeAuthor.com. And my Instagram is at author Kristy Lee. My Instagram has, up-to-date current releases and also a lot of travel photos. So that's a fun place to go if you're interested in that kind of thing. And you can purchase them on Amazon.
Hold up, let's talk about this real quick. Because you totally just opened up another can of worms. I'm very much jealous of. I've never left the United States.
You've never left?
I just got my passport because I felt like if I get one, I will book a trip. Yeah. So I literally just got my passport.
Yeah, that's cool.
So you actually do quite a bit of international travel. And I believe you're leaving in a couple days is it Greece?
I'm leaving tomorrow for Iceland.
Iceland, okay.
Whoa.
Yeah.
What are you doing there?
We are renting a vehicle and driving around the whole country and camping and looking at all the sites and doing some Airbnbs and eating a lot of food, hopefully, and hiking and
how cool.
Yeah, all of it.
Yeah, so you'll be able to see photos of that amazing trip.
Yes.
I know you'll be posting those. You do a good job.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so where did you go?
Last year we went to Greece.
Okay, that's where I thought it was coming.
We did.
How many countries have you hit? Do you know?
Let's see. I've been to, I guess you can count. I've been to Mexico, Canada, Ireland, Paris, Amsterdam, Greece, and now Iceland.
Good for you. Yeah.
What did you do in Greece?
Oh my gosh.
Did you go to Acropolis?
We did.
Yes?
Yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah.
So
I've lived there
beautiful.
in Athens.
Oh my gosh.
Awesome.
I loved it. Yes. We spent some time in Athens. Then we went to Santorini and Mykonos.
Okay.
The hot spots. Yeah. Loved Mykonos.
Expensive.
Very expensive. Yes. We just paid off that bill so we can start paying on this bill.
Yeah.
What about you? How many countries have you been in?
I'm not sure. Like Portugal, Italy, Greece, Spain, Panama, Brazil, United States.
So a good amount.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm over here like, have you guys been to Nebraska? Someday though, I did. I literally got my passport and I'm ready. So I'll be booking
You should.
something.
Let's go to Brazil,
so
man.
important. Yeah,
I would
Brazil.
totally go to Brazil with you in a heartbeat.
Oh, yeah.
I might not come back.
Yeah.
You love Brazil.
I bet I would.
There's a lot of Americans that go there, tourists. Yeah.
I think everybody should travel abroad.
Oh, yeah.
It's so good for
It's
your
the
mind.
most important thing. Yes, you learn so much.
do.
You learn how to respect people.
Yes.
You learn how, like, you realize they are so small in the
Yes.
world
Yeah.
that most people are way different than you. And you,
Yes.
in your mind, before you travel, you're like, I'm right, other people are wrong. But no, you're just a small thing, and the rest people are different than you.
It's so good for you.
yeah.
It's so good for the soul. It really is.
I can relate to that because I moved out to Phoenix, Arizona, and basically didn't know anyone. I had a cousin through my stepdad. I'd never met him. And I was telling him I'm going to Arizona to go to ASU. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'll figure it out. And was just my stepfather at the time. He goes, well, call his nephew. He said, and I did. I'm like, hi, I believe your name's Colin. I mean, that's literally how it went.
Wow.
And he had just bought a 3-bedroom house. It was just him and his dog. And he's like, come on out. So I packed up my stuff and went. And yeah, but long story short, I'm getting distracted here. But speaking about like realizing how small you are, one of my favorite things to do would go to South Mountain, and I would just like kind of pack a lunch and bring some drinks and watch like all the airplanes coming in and out of Phoenix Airport, watching all the traffic going, and just realizing like there's someone on that airport that is like rushing home to go see his wife and family. There's a guy who is just leaving his wife or going on a vacation. Or there's so many different things everyone out here is going through.
Yeah.
And you sit here and just think like in our own world, in our own bubble. So that was one thing, at least for me personally, without traveling internationally. But I was like 23, 24 years old and was able to reflect and like, gosh, I am a speck in this entire world.
Yes. Yeah. It's such a good thing to do. You know, it's good for you. You don't want to just think you're the center of the universe. It's good to see that you're not.
Right.
You know?
Well, it's humbling.
It is humbling.
And like all these things, like you might have just made a big mistake that you feel is like, my life is over. I've ruined it.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, it's not the case. You know, there's so much more out here.
So much more.
Yeah.
The first time I experienced that feeling was going and visiting New York City and standing in the middle of Times Square. And it was the first time I ever felt that. I was like, I am this microscopic thing. My problems don't mean anything to anybody but me.
No one knows I'm here.
Nobody knows I'm here.
Yeah, in New York.
Yeah, it was
Next thing
just,
you know, like, get out of the way.
yeah, it's like you feel like an ant, but I don't mean that in a bad way. It felt really eye-opening in a good way.
You learn, yes.
Yeah.
So get out and travel, folks. That's
Yes,
what.
please.
It's important.
Yeah. Well, that's on my very, very near bucket list is to
Go to
get
Brazil.
international.
We're going to hold you accountable since
All
we
right.
talked
Well,
about it.
I
gotta
got
go to-
my guy
You gotta go
right
to
here.
Carnival.
Yes.
You've heard about Carnival,
Yes,
right?
you made me Google it, and
Yes.
I've been very impressed ever since. So I would totally go. But long story short, though, thanks again for
Yes,
joining us
thank
on the
you.
Talk About It podcast.
Thank you very much, Kristy.
Kristy
Appreciate
Lee,
it.
author, amazing woman, and wish you the best of luck.
Thanks.
All right, folks, thanks for tuning in and joining us on the Talk About It podcast. Hope you're enjoying what we're doing, and we look forward to another episode next week.
See you guys.
Thank you. You're tuned in to the Talk About It podcast. I'm Lauren Fulmer,
I'm Victor Dantas.
and we're here to talk about it. Each week, we're going to have a guest come in, talk about it, tell their story, and really just hope to have some fun and bring some positive energy your way.
Guys, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the bell so you know when's the next episode, and I see you guys in the next episode.
Talk About It podcast.